Dusk folded over the little town like a soft blanket. Porch lights blinked on, windows glowed, and somewhere a lullaby drifted through an open window and into the quiet street where Nova lived. Nova traced the constellations on the bedroom ceiling, tiny stickers that glowed when the lights were out, and wondered who painted the real stars. A moth tapped the window glass. 1, 2, 3, like a polite hello. Its wings shimmered deep blue, dusted with silver. When Nova slid the window open, the moth floated in and bobbed gently, as if bowing. "I am Whisper," said the moth, without moving its mouth. The words arrived like a warm thought. The sky is asking for a helper. A wind like cool milk poured into the room and curled itself into a ladder of light. It rose from the floor to the window, to the treetop, to the night itself, silver rungs that hummed a sleepy tune. Whisper fluttered to the first rung and waited. Nova's toes met the first cold rung, then the second. Above the roof, the town became a patchwork quilt of squares and lines. Farther still, the quilt turned to mist. The air smelled like rain that hadn't fallen yet, and the moon climbed round and shy beyond a curtain of clouds. They reached a floating platform shaped like a paint palette. Jars and bowls of light rested everywhere. Honey gold, blueberry blue, meadow green, cherry white pink. Each jar held starlight that hummed a different note. "Welcome," said a voice soft as a wool sweater. Master Lumen stepped from behind an easel taller than a door. His hair shone like frost at sunrise, and his eyes held tiny sparks. "I've been listening for you." Nova swallowed a shy smile. "Is this where stars are made?" "Painted," Lumen said, "and sometimes repaired." He lifted a brush with bristles as fine as moonwind. "The sky is a story every night. We write it together with light." He dipped the brush into a jar the color of dusk and touched it to the edge of the sky. A new star appeared far away, small, patient, true. Nova gasped. It felt like when a friend laughs and you can't help laughing too. "Would you like to try?" Lumen asked. Nova's hands tingled as the brush settled into small fingers. Whisper landed on Nova's shoulder, lantern U antennae aglow. "Paint with a memory of kindness," the moth suggested. "Stars love kindness." Nova closed their eyes and remembered a day of sharing crackers with a new classmate who had none. The memory warmed like fresh bread. The brush tip caught the warmth. Nova touched the sky. A soft star bloomed gentle as a hand in yours. "Perfect," Lumen murmured. "You listened to your heart before your hand. That is the secret." He led Nova to the edge of the platform, where a bridge arched away thin as thread, bright as dew. Across it, shapes hung in the night like lanterns. Swan, lion, rabbit, bear. The constellations drifted closer and resolved into living outlines of light. Lyra the Swan bowed, wings spilling notes that rang like glass bells. "Welcome, little painter. The sky sings better when we sing together." Leo the lion padded forward, mane flickering warm gold. "Courage is steady, not loud," he rumbled gently. "If your hand shakes, let your breath be your anchor. Lepus the Rabbit bounced, leaving comet crumbs behind. Play helps too, he squeaked. Paint a star that giggles. Ursa arrived last, slow and kind, taller than the others. She set down a wide ladle of light that floated beside her like a friendly moon. There is always enough light to share, she said. We keep it moving. Lumen lifted a crystal palette. Tonight the wind will turn and tug, he said. It sometimes jostles the young stars. We'll need to catch their dust and give it a home again. Nova, you shall carry the stardust satchel. They set out. The bridge trembled like a violin string, but Nova walked with Leo's words in mind. Breathe, anchor, step, whisper flitted ahead like a lighthouse made small. Beneath, the world turned. Far forests, sleeping cities, night rivers held in the hands of valleys. A soft shiver rolled through the sky. The wind changed. Somewhere a new star coughed a little spark, and another, until a faint trail of dust drifted. Nova opened the satchel and caught the dust like snowflakes. Each grain hummed a memory, someone saying sorry. A hand holding another in the dark. A tiny dog wagging its whole body because a child had come home. What do I do with these? Nova asked. Lumen smiled. We make them a nest. The group reached a quiet patch of sky like a meadow left after the snow melts. Lyra sang a thread of notes. They looped and wove themselves into a net. Lepus hopped the edges into knots. Leo stood steady, shoulders wide, while Nova poured the dust into the warm, waiting center. Lumen's brush touched once, twice, 3 times. The dust gathered itself and woke as a small star, bright with gratitude. Nova laughed softly. It felt as if the star had laughed too. Clouds like ships drifted nearer, their bellies lit by city glow below. Rain slept inside them. The moon slid from behind a curtain and watched with dimples for craters. You are doing well, she said in a voice that arrived, like light rather than sound. Paint me a small friend near the sea, so the waves remember to sing low tonight. Nova mixed a blue so deep it felt cool on the fingers and a little yellow to keep it brave. A star blinked awake above the ocean. The moon nodded, please, and tucked herself behind a mist shawl. The sky settled. For a long while, they worked in peaceful rhythm, catching dust, weaving nests, tipping Ursa's ladle to pour thin streams of light where the dark had grown too heavy. Nova learned to rest between breaths and to listen for the sky's needs the way one listens for a friend's voice in a crowd. Then the wind changed again. It came not as a breeze, but as a hush that felt too quiet, like a lullaby that had forgotten its next note. The jars on the palette shivered. Whisper folded its wings. Lumen's face tightened. A night hollow, he said. Sometimes the sky forgets itself for a moment. We must remind it. They arrived at a patch where stars dimmed and thinned, as if someone had taken a small bite from the night. Far below, streetlights flared brighter, as if trying to help. Nova's heart tapped fast, but Leo's lesson came back: anchor, breath, step. What should I paint? Nova asked. Not paint yet, Lumen said. First, listen. Something is missing here. The right light grows from the right listening. They listened. At first, there was only the shy creak of the bridge and the soft swallow of distant waves. Then Nova felt at the ache of a bedtime without a story. a hush where a good night should have been. Somewhere, a parent had to work late. Somewhere, a big sister was trying her best, but the baby had colic. Somewhere, a child watched the door and waited. Nova steadied. They dipped the brush into a jar that sang of warm blankets and patient songs. Instead of a point of light, Nova painted a line, then another, then a curve. Lumen nodded and set his brush beside Nova's, and Lyra, Leo, Lepus, and Ursa gave their light too. The lines became a cradle of stars, thin and strong like arms. The hollow sighed. The hush broke like a soap bubble. A wind like the first page of a book turned over them, and in the houses below, small shoulders softened. A few porch lights clicked off. One window shade lifted and then fell again, slowly, as if a hand had waved and then gone to sleep. You reminded the night of its own song, Lumen said. Well done. They worked until the jars grew light and the moon grew pale. Nova's satchel held a last handful of dust, tiny grains that chimed like teaspoons. Lumen pointed toward the dark horizon where morning waited like a friend at the corner. One more star, he said. Paint the one you most need. Nova thought of the town below, of the quilt of squares, of the ceiling stickers that held the shape of Orion, Cassiopeia, Draco. Nova thought of the kind classmate who had shared a pencil, of the neighbor who watered the little tree when no one else remembered, of the librarian who always saved the new book with the bright cover. Nova mixed a color, not in any jar, a memory color found in the spaces between them. A little kitchen yellow, a little river blue, a little hand in and hand of warm. The brush trembled. Leo leaned close and hummed a steadying hum. Nova touched the sky. A star woke. It wasn't the brightest or biggest, but it was the truest thing Nova had ever made. It settled above the town like a promise. The moon yawned, dawn braided peach, and rose along the hem of the world. Lumen rinsed the brushes with a strand pulled gently from a cloud. Time to go, he said, though every good night is really a good beginning. He placed something small and cool in Nova's palm, a seed of light shaped like a comma. Plant it on your windowsill, he said. When you listen kindly, it will glow, and when it glows, you will know the sky is speaking your name. Whisper escorted Nova back along the silver rungs. The ladder touched the window, then the rug, then vanished with a polite sigh. The room smelled faintly of rain and paint and a bakery at dawn. Nova set the lightest seed in the soil of a sleepy plant and climbed into bed. At the exact moment when awake becomes asleep, the ceiling stickers winked like friends. Outside, a new small star held watch. Morning came with toast and the sound of someone whistling on the sidewalk. Nova's window plant showed the tiniest curl of green, 2 leaves like cupped hands. When Nova leaned close and listened, there it was, the faintest hum, the promise of a ladder. That night, and many nights after, Nova returned. Some evenings the work was quiet and careful, mending fractures in thin winter skies, tying back the hair of a stubborn storm. Other nights were busy and joyful, filling Ursa's ladle and pouring light along a parade route of cloud, painting listening stars above hospitals and little apartments stacked like storybooks, adding a tiny gold spark near a lonely lighthouse so the keeper could feel seen. Nova learned tricks and tenderness, How to coax a shy star to stay by telling it a story. How to weave a lullaby net with Lyra's note when the wind got fidgety. How to nudge Lepus to rest when his hops got too fast. How to lean against Leo's shoulder for courage when the ladder swung. How to read the moon's DES